What's up?
Hey, man.
Do you
Nice
know?
to see you.
Do you know Loverboy?
Who?
Come on.
Oh, look, I'm only 32 years old, man. I don't remember stuff from your childhood.
How could you? You're from Canada. How could you not know Loverboy?
Of course I know Loverboy.
Well, that's the #1 hit. I gotta do it my
Yeah,
way.
man, they're awesome.
Now listen.
Loverboy is like our second national anthem.
Exactly. Listen, Helm Lumber. This morning, I wanted to put on Mike Jones, but I didn't have time. So how you doing, man?
So good, man. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Good, good. Okay, so tell us your name, tell us what you do and where you are.
All right, my name's Ravi Pankania.
Okay.
I live in Richmond, which is very close to Vancouver in British Columbia.
All right.
And I'm a curtain maker.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna get into the curtains in a minute.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're gonna start with a couple of questions before we start the conversation. What word or phrase do you overuse?
Two of them. What a life and what a shit show.
And it's usually one or the other.
Yeah, and I literally say that nonstop. It's going to be on my tombstone.
You know what?
What a life, what a shit show.
What is your least favorite thing to do?
Like household chores. Obviously. I feel like that doesn't count because anybody who says they like doing household chores is something wrong with them. I don't like doing accounting. Like I'm pretty good at it, but it's not my favorite thing. Like within, let's say, a everyday chores kind of thing that I have to do to keep my life going, accounting is probably the least favorite.
Let me
but I have
tell
to do
you,
it.
out of all, I've interviewed 60, 70 people. That is the #1 thing that we don't like to do. And
accounting.
And the other thing that get me is, it's kind of funny. It's almost, regardless of how big or how small a person is, the company is, they don't like those paperwork.
Yeah. I have to say that's the least favorite of the things that I have to do, but it's so necessary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It is essential to your business existence.
Yeah.
What are you drinking?
So I'm celebrating, man.
What are we celebrating?
We're celebrating you.
Sweet.
So I actually made myself a little cocktail today.
Very nice.
Because after today, after this, I'm not going to work. I'm not working anymore. So I figured, you know what? I'll set the mood with a. So cheers to you, Rob.
That's me right there.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See, you have to remain dignified. I don't.
Well,
because people are gonna see you again. They're not gonna see me again.
They might.
Oh, you know what? Before we go on, can I introduce you to a couple people because they're just about to leave?
Yeah.
All right. Hang on. So, my kids come in almost every day to work, and here they are. So this is my daughter, Samaya.
What's up, Samaya?
Hi.
This is Rob. Yeah, and there's my son, Nuri.
What's up, Nuri? You said you were 31.
No, I lied. I'm 46. I look like I'm 31.
Who told you that?
Well, nobody. So they're about to leave because they put in a full day of work, so they're out. So see you, kids.
So both your kids work with you?
They do, yeah. They come in sort of part-time whenever their schedules allow. Now they don't have school anymore, so they are here probably 3 days a week.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't get
and they, I'll show you some of the stuff that they do. Like, they're very.
Robbie, slow down. The night is just getting started.
No, I get it. No, down the road, I'm going to show you some of the things that they do. Right. Not right now.
So let me get back.
See you, kids.
Let me get back to the question.
Do it.
What is your most favorite thing to do?
So I'm not gonna say sex because obviously everybody knows that, but the quality of lovers is kind of low, so we won't go there. But like, I love sewing. I love cooking.
Okay,
It's
what
tough.
sewing? Do you sew on vintage machines or new machines?
No, 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 no. So those vintage machines, I feel those are good for taking pictures on Instagram with, but truly, if you want to make it happen, you got to have some dope shit. And so I'll show you some of the stuff that we have going on.
All right.
I mean, you know, the machines, the old machines are
Wait,
good
wait,
because
hey,
they're
1 second.
yeah.
Let's go through the questions in your journey,
Go ahead.
and
Yeah,
then we
yeah.
can go back and forth about the machines.
All right.
And I want to do that because I'm in the old machine. What is what is the one thing your spouse would like to change about you? And we ain't got all night.
Okay, so she probably wouldn't like the fact that I have, you know, girlfriends. But the thing is, I'm not married, so I don't have a spouse. So I feel like that question shouldn't really. It doesn't appeal. It doesn't apply to me.
All right. So what about some things in the past?
Well, I'm a workaholic for sure. I'm very intense. I'm very passionate. Those kinds of things kind of get in the way if there's another person involved.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you.
Mm.
What makes you tick?
Good question. So many things. I mean, ultimately, it's just having to support my children. Like really, when you think about it, you know, work. I do everything I do so I can have a better life, and for them especially. So I think about them a lot. Absolutely, they make me tick.
That's
100%.
that's why we do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you had to travel cross country on a
Yeah.
motorcycle, who would you take with you?
I'll probably take my friend Mark because he can fix motorcycles. So, and he's good company, but mostly because he's pretty handy with motorcycles. I feel that would be a no-brainer, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
I'm also telling you I can't.
so if you were going to a card game
Yep.
and there's a possibility that a fight could break out, who would you bring with you?
Yeah. Whew. Are you free?
I can't play cards.
Because I don't either.
So,
These hypothetical questions, man. You know, I'd probably take somebody I went on a date with a couple months ago. She was a bit of a bulldog, I have to tell you.
what irks you the most?
Political correctness, 100%, no doubt.
Obviously.
Can't stand it.
And you know what that comes from, Mike?
Tell me.
That comes from you being in your own zone, working for yourself, and not being around other people.
Perhaps, yep. Yep.
Because the less you're around people, the less you care what people think.
For sure. 100%.
And the more you're around people, the more they affect you, and the more you're concerned.
Sure. Yeah.
So you're gonna grow up to be an old fart.
I hope so.
What sound makes you happiest?
Sound?
Sound.
Oh yeah, sewing machines moving. I love it.
Yeah, that means
or scissors cutting.
that means there's work going on.
Yeah.
What sound bothers you the most?
Probably needless complaining, which I do hear from time to time.
What do you complain about most?
Probably, well, there's lots to complain about, but taxes, number one.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, taxes.
Me too, big time. But I thought taxes in Canada weren't bad.
Well, no matter where you live, if you have to pay taxes, it's bad.
However big or small it is, taxes are no good.
Yeah, no, taxes, actually, where we live, taxation is a big problem. It's huge. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Property taxes, you mean?
Just all taxes. Everything is taxed over and over, like multiple taxes. It's insane. I think we're the we pay the highest taxes in North America, or at least in Canada for sure.
Wow.
This side. Yeah.
Wow. What sound bothers
Mhm.
you the most?
What sound?
Yeah.
Well, the people complaining mostly.
Did you say? I'm sorry. My fault. And take it easy on this one. What's your favorite curse word?
Oh, well, tried and true. Fuck you. That's pretty much it. I'm a purist when it comes to swearing. No, no, I'm not that creative there.
Um, and MK5354 said Canada pays much more tax than the USA.
There you go.
What profession other than your own would you like to try?
I considered perhaps being the first Indian lumberjack, but then I thought maybe not.
Because I guarantee you go to India, there's a ton of them.
Yeah, in India, but in Canada, there's probably not even one, so it's fine. No, I'd like to be probably like a business analyst. Be kind of fun.
What kind of business analyst?
I'd like to look at how corporations and large companies, how they make money, how they deploy their capital. It's interesting to me.
You know what I find interesting about that? How we shut down for 2 or 3 months, and all of these really large companies are about to fold.
Yeah.
How can you generate millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue in 3 months? You can't exist.
Probably a huge debt load. Huge debt load.
Everybody's week to week.
It seems that, you're right when you say that, because I thought like this isn't going to affect, big corporations, but in fact, you're absolutely right. It's kind of weird.
Right.
Yeah. And it tells you whom not to invest in, because obviously if a company's that over leveraged, right? I can see a small business kind of failing after 3 or 4 months, but a really large corporation, no way. No way.
Right. With all the airlines, all the bells, it's crazy.
It's devastating. It's actually devastating. And the trickle down from that, I don't think we've felt yet, but boy, it's going to be brutal.
Yeah. Now here's one of your brothers, Bliss Woodworks. Bliss Woodshop. He has to be with Indian.
No, actually, I'm African. I was born in Kenya. I grew up there, and then we moved to Canada. So I guess I'm an immigrant to Canada. I feel very Canadian today. Like as a grown-up man, I'm a Canadian, 100%. My kids are both born and raised here, but I grew up in Africa.
Okay, hold up. Wait, whoa. So we get there. Now you answered this from the start, which made me laugh. What would you
Sorry, I can't hear you. Hold on a second. Can you repeat that?
I said you answered this from the start, but I'm going to ask.
You somehow have lost all the volume. Hold on. You there?
I'm here.
Okay, I can barely hear you, but go ahead.
Can anyone else hear me?
I can hear you, but it's very, very faint somehow.
Huh. I think I'm good.
Okay.
Is that better? Yeah.
Little bit. Okay. Hang on a second. Okay, let's try again.
She said she has both. You answered this question from the start, but I'm going to ask it again. What would you want on your tombstone?
Oh, well, I hope I get cremated, but if I had a tombstone, I don't think I'd want anything on it. Just my name, how long I lived. I don't know. Maybe I'm scared to think of that. Other people will write stuff on my tombstone for sure. So
whatever's there, right? Okay, so now we start the conversation. So take us back from high school. If it starts further than that, that's fine.
High school, you said?
Yeah, or earlier, wherever it started from, and bring us to the different points in your life that pointed you to where you are now.
Okay. So the story's really good. And I'll give you the short version, okay?
All right.
So when I moved here with my family, I was about 12, 13 years old.
Okay, so you were born in Africa.
Born in Kenya, yeah.
Born in Kenya.
And we decided to move here because my father was he was basically he had cancer. He wasn't going to survive. So I don't think my mother wanted to live in Kenya by herself, raising two kids. So she had a lot of family here in Vancouver. So we just made the decision to move here. So once we moved here, I was 12. I was just turning 13, and so of course it was quite disruptive, as you can imagine. Like at that age, sort of leaving your friends behind. But sort of made do. It's not like Canada was foreign to me because we traveled back and forth quite a bit.
So let me ask you, Robbie, do you still have any of those old friends?
No. I mean, I've tried to keep in touch with them, but we're completely, there's no connection. So, it's just sort of like you're just collecting a bunch of people on Facebook. It's not real. So if I was to go back and forth and actually maintain some kind of relationship with them, that would be different.
Right.
Just, it at that time, there was no Facebook or anything like that. So in order to keep in touch with people, you really had to write them letters.
It was effort.
Yeah, and it sort of, for me, I kept up a little while, and then about my mid-teens, I just couldn't be bothered. I'd made too many new friends here, and, it's just the way that it was, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, so we moved here, and it was really tough for me because I wasn't sure what was going to happen with my dad. This was a new place, and it was very challenging as a young teenage boy. So I started to what I did is when I enrolled in school, the one of the greatest things about Kenya is the education system's phenomenal. At least the schools that I went to were phenomenal. And so I basically was the laziest student in my whole school here because I knew I literally spoke better French than than the kids here.
Isn't that crazy from what we say about Africa and how it is? And what we say about the civilized countries.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's many things. There's such a lack of respect here where there was always there's always strong respect towards your elders there. Like, not just older people, but like people who had more experience in life. Anyhow, so when I came into school here, it was so boring. It was literally the most boring thing ever. I'd learned everything already. But I learned that I could take empty blocks, like empty class blocks, which I would much rather do than go to class. And the counselor pulls me in during the second semester, I believe it was, in grade 11, and he says, if you don't take any more classes, you're not going to graduate. Like, you need to fill these empty blocks, or there's a good chance you might not graduate. So he says, you're 3 weeks into the semester, you have two choices. One is PE and the other is sewing. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the PE teacher and talk to him. I go there, everybody's running around the gym, and I'm like, this is going to screw up my donut body. I'm not doing this. So
it's work.
I went to the sewing classes, all girls, and I'm like, so for me, it was a no-brainer. I'm like, I didn't want to sew. I don't care about sewing. Anyway, so then I started in the class. She let me take the class, and she gave me a passing grade the first semester. But then after that, in grade 12, I became the top student. I won a scholarship to design school.
Wow.
So I really accelerated from that point on.
Well, you found your passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've never let it go. So that was when I was 15. I started sewing. 15, yep. And I started a business right away. Like, I started making clothes for my friends. I started sewing stuff for people in my neighborhood. Like, I just started, and then I always had I had a job, like a side job for probably 10 years, different jobs.
Whoa. So after high school, you get in design school. What design school? Where was this?
So there's a design school here. It's called Quilt. And we, I enrolled in that. I got a scholarship actually to go to it. And I didn't enjoy it, to be honest with you. It was, I probably, okay, so I should also say, like, that year, my father passed away and it was really hard. And I think I tried to bury myself in school and try to bury myself in the things that I was trying to avoid. And so that sort of came back to bite me over the next few years of my life. And so like nothing I started really went anywhere because it just felt really lost. Like I really
Yeah,
felt,
because there was no closure dealing with your dad passing away.
yeah. Yeah, so I took this design course. It was a couple years long, and I think I dropped out after the first year. But I never stopped. Like I just didn't want to be in school anymore. I feel like I had had enough of school. And so I traveled a little bit. I studied on my own. So I couldn't afford to go to like FIT in New York, you know, the Fashion Institute. So I went there, I went to New York and I bought the curriculum and I brought it back. Like I went to to the school library or the bookstore, and I bought and I just studied it. I studied everything. I studied for years and years and years. Studied like jacket making, coat making, pattern making, whatever it was, sewing, and on the side, I was developing what is now my business today without really knowing it. So I started making like pillows and slip covers and all kinds of little things just to have an income because it was really hard. Like it's very challenging being in the fashion industry or being in the needle arts and trying to make a living. It's very hard. And so, you know, I really wanted to do it. I just didn't know how I was going to be able to earn a living. And so I would do this on the side and get orders here and there. And it sort of worked out well. You know, I made a living anyways. And so that's how I got my start. And then slowly I started to realize that there was a much bigger potential for me in home dec than there was in fashion for many reasons. I didn't like the fashion industry once I got into it. Like I started working in it and I really hated it. Like I had to do 4 seasons a year. It
Exactly.
just seemed wasteful. It seemed pointless.
Yep, it's faddish.
Yeah. There's nothing lasting about it, even though they teach you about the beauty of it and all that. It's all, I mean, that's not unanimous. There are great parts of the fashion industry, but as a young guy coming up, it was hard. And I thought, well, I'm not going to fight this. I'm just going to sew things for people's homes because sofas don't care what color it is. They don't mind if it's a little bit tight or a little bit loose.
Yeah, and it's not going to go out of season next year.
Mm-hmm.
So, at what point did you concentrate on home decor?
I was probably about 22, 23 years ago. So I was about 22 or 23 that I made that decision not to focus on fashion anymore and just use my skills in like all the skills that I had sort of accumulated and developed by studying fashion. I just transferred straight over to home decor. And then because I didn't have any money, I couldn't really start a business or like in any meaningful way. So I just basically started out of a couple of rooms in my house and then took over the garage. And then I worked in there for probably a good 10 years, I'll say. And then during that time, I met my partner, whom I have my children with. And she had a really great job that she quit soon after we met. And so now it's like, what are we going to do? And so she actually started to work with me and we developed this business and it sort of gradually grew and grew and grew. And here we are today.
Now, is she still your partner?
Mm-mm. No, we split up probably 6, 7 years ago.
Do you still work together?
No, we don't. We don't.
So
In fact, after we split up, I rebranded the company and completely changed everything. And so it's kind of like, you know, people develop at different speeds. And, you know, sort of going into my 40s, I was still pretty broke. I never really made any money. I didn't, you know, like I figured, well, I'm just an artist, and artists don't really, you know, it's hard for them to earn a good, what I think is a good living. But like, I wasn't asking for a lot. Like, you know, it'd be nice to have savings. It'd be nice to have a buffer. And, you know, I really wanted to amp the business up, and I'm not sure that she felt the same way. I don't think she was as energized by it, but her role was really critical. She was doing the accounting. That's probably why she's so bitter all the time, because she had to do all the accounting. No, I'm just kidding.
Accounting is tough.
Yeah, so she had to do that, and then when she left, I was kind of like, oh my God, this is going to be hard because I don't know how to bookkeep, I don't know how to do any of that. So I just took it on as a challenge, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it my way, and lo and behold, apparently I'm a much better businessman than I thought. So our whole business changed within 6 months. It was remarkable, remarkable.
And you started making money.
Like we did, for example, let's just say an average year, we probably did, before this changeover, we were doing maybe, I don't really remember the numbers, but let's say about $500,000 a year in sales. We probably did that much in a 6-month period thereafter. Like the acceleration was incredible, as well as looking at things that I hadn't looked at before, like profit margins, efficiencies. Like, we moved into this new space, and the new space is designed to actually be more efficient, like to produce the product that we make. And it actually increased our profitability probably by like about 15 to 25%, just implementing different ways of making things. So I really...
Why do you think you didn't do that before?
I don't know. I really don't know. Like, I felt like I had my back against the wall in many ways. So I felt like, here I was in charge of this business that I didn't really know how to run, and I had to learn. And at the same time, I had this very real worry of not being able to support my children. And so for me, it was kind of a real, like a test of how, like, it was like, I got to do this. Like, this has to happen. I got some help. Okay. So I don't know if do you watch Netflix?
Yeah.
Okay. So while this was happening, the, that whole miniseries, Pablo Escobar, that came out, and I was watching it, and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run my business using the Escobarian method. Like, control the supply, have different lines of distribution. I haven't killed any of my competitors yet, but yeah, they're all just dying off of old age anyways. But like, seriously, like it was very inspiring watching this show, because he basically was laying out a really solid business plan. He just did it illegally, of course. And we know what that story is all about, but it made perfect sense to me. So like, our industry is in a lot of upheaval all the time. Like this particular industry, there's problems with supply. There's problems with labor. There's several points of where there are challenges along the way, right? So what I did is I built this business. I re-engineered the whole business to solve every single one of those problems simultaneously. So rather than just taking one problem and fixing that, I thought, why don't we take all of the issues that we have and turn them into, like make a solution that basically covers all, or at least most of the issues we're having.
How?
So for example, let's take one example. So supply, that's a tough one.
Okay. Give me 2 problems and how that one thing solved them both.
Okay, so let's say that we have a problem of, supply, okay? So I don't know if you know how this industry works, but basically when somebody orders some curtains, I have to show them the textiles.
A sample. Yep.
And then I have to order the textile that they choose. Then I make it up. Or when the fabric arrives, I have to check it for flaws. I have to, all that sort of thing. And then I have to make it up, install it, and then I have to service it after that. So there has to be a certain amount of profit built into purchasing and reselling that fabric, obviously, right?
The whole process.
Now, my profits were being eroded by a couple of things. Number one, the fabric qualities were dropping very fast. The cost of the fabric was going up, and then the shipping was killing me. It was killing me, right? So I had a few problems there. So I had the costing of the fabric, I had the shipping problem, and I had the quality of supply. So to solve those 3 problems, for example, I started milling my own textiles like through mills in Belgium. So I knew that Belgian linen was the best linen in the world. I always wanted to use it, but the cost of Belgian linen was ridiculous, and it's because the middleman was taking all the profit. So the guy at the bottom and the guy at the top were just, it's not sustainable for a business like me. So what I was able to do is basically negotiate good pricing, good supply, And that allowed me to import a lot more, have it in stock, so I could turn curtains around really fast. I knew the quality was there. Plus, I could now sell this stuff to other wholesalers at a really good rate. So that in itself completely solved like 10 problems.
Pablo.
Hmm?
So let me ask you, did you fly over and meet these people and check it out, or you did it all online and phone calls?
Well, so in order to sell Belgian linen, you have to be part of like the Belgian linen mafia. So I had to convince them to let me in, and I did it by putting horses' heads in their beds. No, I didn't do that. No, I just made a case for the small guy. Basically, I just said, well, look, the industry is changing. You want to work with people who are passionate, who are going who believe strongly in your product. If I believe in their fabric, I'm going to sell their fabric. They didn't have a lot of distribution here as a group, and this was kind of a new business model. And so I guess they were willing to try it out, and so they signed me on, and the rest is history. But I basically just contacted them over like online. I called them. They all have offices in New York and LA. So it was really easy. And they actually come to see me. I don't go to see them anymore. Like I used to go to New York, but now they come up and see me. So it's good.
That's when you know you made a mark.
Yeah. Oh, I think so.
When you stop going to see the man and
Yeah.
the man comes to see you. And when the man comes to see you, you become right.
Yeah, the man. Yeah. So all of these changes were really interesting. So like here's one example of something that I did. I spent probably a good 2 to 3 years making a quilt. So what I would do is every time I got an order, I would cut a small piece of fabric about this big, and I'd sew it together in like a long strip, right? And I'd hang it on the wall. And I just thought it was decoration. It's a nice way to hide this wall that we have here. But after about 2 years, I looked at the quilt and I thought, I can see exactly what people are ordering. I can see exactly what kinds of things people want. And what's, what is, from that quilt, I could tell what, 80% of people wanted, right? There's always the outliers, the polka dots or the crazy patterns or colors. But the vast majority of people were ordering natural fabrics in neutral colors in a couple of different weights. And so that's what we've basically centered our entire offering around. And so it makes sense. Like, when I was a kid, I talked to this marketing guy, and he said he was working for an ice cream company. And at the time, the rage was to have as many flavors as possible, right? Like 35 flavors, right? And he says, you know what? All we need to do is make 20 flavors of the most popular flavor, which was chocolate. So instead of having 20 different flavors, they had 20 different chocolates, because everybody's going to order chocolate anyways. And now gave them 20 choices, they're definitely going to buy something, right? So that stuck with me. And those kinds of things I built my business around. And it's been very successful, very, very successful.
And how long have you been doing the distribution?
Right from day one. So 5 years?
5 years.
Yeah. So what I didn't have much cash. Okay. So what I did have were orders. Like I would have people ordering curtains from me, right? And we're not talking tons and tons at that time, but there were people ordering from me. So what I told them is I'd say, okay, well, I'm changing my business. I'm offering these few fabrics. And at the time, there's only about 15 or 20 fabrics, okay? And they all loved them, and they would order. And every time I got an order, Rob, I would order 3 times as much, okay? So instead of just ordering what they needed, I would place a large order. Now, I would take all the profit from the jobs, and I would reinvest it in fabric, because I didn't want to take on a loan. I didn't want to take any debt. I never have any debt, never.
Yep.
And so I basically built up this huge inventory over the years from which I can just pull from. So like if somebody ordered a curtain check this out. So last week on Tuesday, I had an appointment with somebody. They ordered $12,000 worth of curtains. They're hanging today, right? They're here waiting to be installed. And like, that's how quickly it can happen if everything's in stock. So I saw that, just the efficiency of being able to produce and get it out the door is making you money.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
so having the product is important.
Yeah, and it's kind of what I do. like you, I manufacture my own product. We manufacture the
Yeah,
lumber.
it's amazing, by the way.
And thank you. And what I've done is I got all the machines in to where if things are correct, I can take 2 boards out of the greenhouse of the kiln, and I could turn that into a table finished top in about 2.5 to 3 days.
Perfect. So that's money.
Yeah, it does. And I try to explain that to my guys. I'm like, a 3-day project cannot take 2 weeks. It needs to take 3 days.
Yeah.
Because those other 2 days in the week, we need to work on the next project.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And that's the way it goes, because the longer you have that staff on the clock and they're not producing and things are not going out the door, you're losing money because you're paying labor.
Yep.
And that labor needs to make you money and create revenue. So
100%.
I commend you on that. Great job. How many people do you have?
At the moment, there's, excluding my children, there are 4 of us full-time and a bookkeeper who's part-time.
Gotta have a bookkeeper.
Yeah.
I got in so much trouble. You gotta have a bookkeeper.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's
yeah.
I keep telling people, I'm gonna talk about, I gotta get the courage to do it too. I'm gonna talk about the trouble I got in by not paying attention to the bookkeeping, not getting the bookkeeping, and having the man knock on the door.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna do it with an accountant, so an accountant can go through the process with me, and people on the other side can learn and see from me bumping my head really hard what not to do.
Well, yeah, and if I have any recommendations in that area for the people watching is that, it has to be an expense of your business. Don't be afraid to spend money on accounting or bookkeeping, and spend a little more than you're comfortable with. But make sure that the people giving you advice know what they're doing. So go to a real professional, because there's a lot of people who will say, that's one place you don't want to save money. You don't want to save money on your bookkeeping or your accounting, because it can come back and bite you in the ass.
Yes, and a lawyer.
And?
A lawyer. You need a lawyer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Any professional advice. I agree with you 100%.
Now,
100%.
You don't need a lawyer because it's going to happen. You need a lawyer for when it happens. And it may take 6 months. It may take 6 years. But when it does, you need to be able to make that call and not go looking.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So those things are really important. It's also, though, like, as a small business, you're always got one eye on cash flow and another eye on the toys you want to buy. And the lawyer/accountant fees, they don't factor into either one of those things.
They don't.
But
what that is.
Yeah. So I feel like you got to invest your money up front and all that sort of stuff, set yourself up right, and then concentrate on making your money. Yep. Let them look after where it's going, but keep making the money.
And yeah, and that's our job. It's to get out there and make it happen. But you're right. Yeah. You have to have that proper foundation in place, so in case you hit a little bump, you don't fall.
Yep.
It's just a little stumble. You keep moving.
Yeah, and another thing is that, that's 2 very important aspects of a business. The other is, of course, actually being able to run one, because there's a lot of people like me, if I go back to my 30s, early 30s, late 20s, and I was running, like, I had this business, I didn't know anything about business, right? It's like your typical story, like, I'm good at something, and so I think I can turn it into a business. It's like, if you're a cook and your family says, boy, you can sure cook, and then you go open a restaurant, it's not quite the same thing.
Pause. Let me tell you something. Wednesday night, Robbie, as we're saying this, Wednesday night, and we're talking to her, trying to help her now. Busy Bacon in LA.
Yeah.
If you get time, listen to her story,
her
conversation, because she's 26.
Wow.
Imagine what you knew about business at 26.
Yeah.
She had a shop running successfully for a year and had to back off and start again for some other problems. In the middle of that, you know, not planning for it.
Yeah.
Which means you don't have the revenue.
Yep.
So, you know, it's strange because everything that you're talking about now at your age and what you knew at her age, she's even younger.
Yep.
So you could imagine, you know,
Totally.
the turmoil. So we're trying to get a couple people together, a few, to see how we can get some crowdfunding going for her and help her and advise her on moving forward because she's in a tough spot.
Yeah. Yeah. So all I was going to say is, like, you know, it's important to have the lawyer, the accountant, but also a business mentor is really important.
That's probably first.
You know, yeah, because he'll tell you right away, or they'll tell you right away whether you should even waste your time.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's not easy, man.
Oh, no, you know what? You know, I'll tell you what's even harder, okay? For someone like you or me, or any of the people who listen or who are part of this conversation, it's harder to wake up in the morning and go to your job, you know, at something you don't want to do all day long. Okay? I remind myself of that every day. You know, like I have a choice. I could go work at the insurance company. It would drain my soul. You know, and so the worst parts of my everyday are better than that for me. So I remind myself, even when I'm cleaning stuff I don't want to clean, accounting I don't want to do, it's still better. Like, that's the dream.
Yep.
Yeah.
It could be worse.
Yep.
Yeah. So how do you go about marketing? How do people find you?
How do people find us?
Yeah.
Word of mouth. I'm also in a very enviable position that there's just very little, like I have a little bit of a monopoly on my industry here. And it's because,
now you do.
Sorry?
Now you do.
Yeah. Well, what it is that nobody's getting into this game.
That's good.
Like, I don't know how many young curtain makers you know, but I don't know anybody.
I don't know any.
Yeah. So, but whereas I could point to you, like, there's like dozens of young mill workers, dozens of young electricians, whatever, right? Yeah. Whereas, so we're in a bit of so our job is to make our business as efficient as possible, because people are still going to order product, right? Even if there's less people ordering, they're still going to order that product for their custom homes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
It's still a lot.
There's fewer and fewer people offering them any options, which means it's kind of like a funnel. It's going to come to you anyways. So then it becomes more of a job of weeding them out versus them finding you and comparing you to everyone else. You're saying that you're changing the whole conversation, saying, well, I may not want to work for you versus the other way around, right? And it's an enviable position to be in.
It is.
But I kind of knew this was going to happen because I had when I was trying to become a tailor, most of the tailors I was sort of going to see were in their 60s. I was in my early 20s. And I saw a big gap. There's a 40-year gap. There's a 2-generation gap, right? So the granddad was making the stuff. The son was an accountant. And the son of the son was he was a barista, okay? So nobody was picking up the scissors. And then I come along, and I look at this, and I think, I got no support above and very little support below, like if I want employees, right? This business is going to die. This industry is going to die. And it effectively has. At least in Vancouver, it's totally dead. And so I saw the same thing happening in what I do, like upholstery, curtain making. And I thought, well, all I have to do is just stick with it. And eventually, I'll probably be somewhat successful, But you got to put your time in, too. Like, when it comes to this kind of stuff, like whether it's woodworking or metalworking or curtain making, it doesn't happen overnight. There's no IPOs. There's none of that shit that just take you, it's hard work and consistent work. And it's like chipping away daily, every day. You get great successes, small, big success, or I want to say small successes all the time rather than one big success. And if you're smart, you take all those tiny successes and you turn them into something meaningful.
A big lesson.
And you can make a good living.
Yep. Yeah. So let's get a tour going.
Tour?
Yeah.
Okay.
You ready for a tour?
Okay. I'm good. Totally good.
All right.
Ready?
Let's
Okay.
do
So
it.
okay. So I'm just gonna walk you through the shop as we go through.
Take your time.
Okay. So this is our kitchen here.
Okay, hold it. Hold it. Keep going. Stop. For all the people that I know, that's festoons. And what are you doing with festoons being a curtain maker? Talk to me.
Yeah. Good question. I'm gonna show you. Okay. So there's festool, but let's see here. They're just boxes.
Ah.
No, I'm kidding. I bought some empty boxes, but they're all my tools. So like I just use Festool for everything. Drills, routers, you name it. I'll take you through the back and you'll see what I'm talking about. But there's a large component of like construction involved, like building framework.
For the installation.
Yes. Yes. And also our infrastructure. Like, you know, when we want to build, let's say, racks or something like that, we build them here in the shop. And I want to have Festools because Festools are, to me, they are the best tools an amateur like me can buy because they're very safe, they're easy to use, there's a good system. I don't have to be a pro, right? I can get good results without having to be a woodworker.
It makes you look like a pro when the job's done.
Exactly. And people love them. Like you just pointed them out, and that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so I keep them all at the front here because we're doing some work at the back. So I'll take you through. So again, give me one sec. Here we go. So that's the kitchen.
Okay.
And then I'm going to take you through to the sample room, which is right here. So this room here is kind of like the heart of our business. So you see all these boxes?
Yep. Wow.
So each box is a fabric that we inventory here.
Wow.
Okay? So for example, if I walk over, see this?
Oh. Okay.
So that's a sample of the fabric. So this one this one doesn't have a label on the back, but there we go. So it'll tell you, you know, what color it is and all that. This is what my kids do. They put all these together. And then what we do is we pack them into little boxes like this. And then we ship them off to designers, architects, or whoever requires them. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go on through here. I'm going to come back to this area here, but I want to introduce you to my staff that's working today. So that's Anna. This is Rob.
Anna?
Hi, Rob.
It's kind of low. You can't really hear very well, so you just have to pretend that you know what he's saying when he says back to you.
Hi, Rob.
Yeah, that's Rob. So he's telling you.
Yeah. Hey.
So Anna and I have worked together for almost 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is really. Yeah, that's really. Really, this is Rob.
What's really
Hi,
real?
Rob. How are you?
Good. How are you?
And that's it for today. Wendy's not around today, and the other two left, as you saw. And then, so we're walking back here. You can see. So like this is where we do most of our like, you know, I'll be cutting a lot of the stuff. I use this table to cut lumber. Like, so for example, right now I'm building a headboard for somebody, or I mean a bed frame. So these are the side rails. So I'll put this together. You know, I will use the domino connectors, the Festool domino connectors to put it together so I can ship it in my, you know, I can ship it over there. So I can take it up the stairs or whatever it is, right?
Just put it together.
And so, yeah, and then I can put it together when I'm at the house. Then you can see here, give me one second. So here's all of our textiles. You can see them.
Wow. So,
right?
And this is all linens?
It's all linen, yeah. It's all linen, and there's like lots of different varieties, and there's a ton of inventory. It's amazing how much sits on these racks. Like one rack like this one probably holds, I would say, probably I want to say almost 1,000 yards, maybe more. So if you think about that's like 13 or 14 racks. And then on top of that, we've got some more here. And then if you look back here, you'll see all our wide width goods.
Robbie, slow up. Let's go back to that original rack. Because I'm kind of in the linen. All right?
This one here?
Yeah. So what is that a yard?
How much does it cost per yard?
What's an average? Yeah.
I would say here on this rack's probably about, the average cost is about $70 a yard, $80 a yard. Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
God.
So you can just, if you look at the inventory, it's like, yeah, that's a Lamborghini and a half. There's a Ferrari over there. So yeah, it really adds up.
What's your most expensive linen by the yard?
Let me show you. Let me show you.
And look,
It's about $220 a yard.
Okay, hold on. My buddy just said linen fetish. Derek, dude, you got no idea. Do you, Robbie? Do you sleep on linen?
100%. So take a look at this stuff. Now it's very hard to tell, but this, especially online, but you can see how thick it is, right?
Right.
I mean, to feel this, it's like, it is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, you know, I've got a fair stock of that.
Okay.
And what people do, go ahead.
Do you have linen underwear?
No. Who wears underwear?
You crazy Canadian. All right. So go ahead. What people do?
Yeah. So I was just going to say that, you know, like there's a large assortment, and what people do is they, you know, I'll get orders for pillows. I'll get orders for little things, and it's great because I've got all these tiny rolls, right? So that's another part of the business, is that you always have wastage. Like, you know, you always have wastage, right? You got little ends, cut-offs, whatever, and you try to put them together in like a, you know, quilted, you know, chopping board. How many of those can you make? I don't know. And so what we do is we take all of our leftovers and we make things like pillows. We'll make like runners. We also do a lot of our samples, like I showed you the samples. Those come off the wastage, right? So trying to monetize the wastage is really, it's kind of a challenge because we generate a lot of waste.
Yeah, it's another job.
Yeah, yeah. And so in the future, go ahead.
You have to wonder, is controlling, is trying to not waste that waste worth the time,
yeah,
and effort that it takes to do that?
Yep. Yeah, we have a very efficient cutting system here. So when we design and make curtains, we take into account, you know, the fabric widths, how many panels we're going to need. We're hyper efficient when it comes to that, because that's money. And I'd rather cut it off and save it for something else than throw it away or mismanage the cutting. So let me show you some of the sewing machines, because you have such a fetish for machines. Hold on a second.
Let's do it.
So here we go. We got, so I'll just show you the whole bank. So that's the majority of the machines that we use on the daily.
Okay.
And so you can see they're all on wheels.
Right.
And so we just move them into position as we need. Actually, everything in the workroom is on wheels. So here we've got a super heavy duty, like we barely use this, but this is for like leather, heavy duty machinery. Then we've got a really cool industrial computerized machine. We don't use this one anymore because we've upgraded to the ones I'm going to show you at the front there. This is a twin needle machine. Here, let's see if I can get in there and take a look.
So that's double up.
Yeah, so you can see it's got two needles, right? It's a very old machine. Like this is probably, I want to say this is like probably 60s, 1960s.
You have any embroidery?
Then we got a zigzag machine here, which is great.
Zigzag.
It's just finishing off.
Yep.
It's really, you know, so each machine has its own function. You can't double up the functions.
What about,
Go ahead.
exactly, what about embroidery? You got any embroidery machines?
Embroidery? No, we don't get into that at all.
Okay.
At all. It's a whole other industry. And, you know, to be honest with you, the servicing of those machines, you know, like we're talking, not only are you looking at huge servicing, but you're also looking at a huge cost outlay with the threads. And then you got to have the business to sort of justify the expense, right? Most people don't even buy them. They lease them. And I just think it's just not our core business. So if we need any embroidery done, we'd just rather pay someone to do it.
Call the embroidery guy.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'll show you these new guys here. These are I'm just going to steal this watch, really using it. So these are the brand new machines. So they actually have a touch screen where you can change all the parameters of the machine while you're sewing. I mean, they still work like sewing machines, but basically they're super efficient, quiet. You know, you can change the stitch length, the tension, all that just through this touch screen. It's fantastic.
So how much is selling raw material What percentage of your business is that?
I would say that because every single project we do has fabric in it, right? So if you count that, it's a very high percentage. But if you're talking just fabric sales alone,
Yep.
you're probably looking at around 20%, and that's growing faster than any part of our business.
That's good.
Yep. That's what we want, because that enables us to collect more fabric, like, you know, to mill more fabric, design more textile, have a bigger reach for our clients, like, you know, like basically just have a much more robust offering.
Yeah, and you.
So you want to see something else?
Yeah.
Okay, take a look at these. Oh, here we go.
Woo.
So these are my scissors.
Nice.
So now you don't really need this many, but I sort of collect them. So these are my newest pair. They actually came in this box. You can see it even has these little like nice joinery action, yeah. And then I've got like some really old ones that were given to me by various tailors that I've known.
Yeah,
and then there's these monsters. Take a look at these. So these are actually, they are 15 inches long.
Wow. Now, I have a small collection. You got any brass? I have some brass scissors from India.
Brass?
Yeah.
We don't have any brass ones, but I wonder about how hard the metal would be. I don't know.
So maybe it's a coating.
Sorry?
So maybe it's a coating.
Related to, pardon me, sorry, I didn't catch that last one.
Maybe they're brass plated.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Okay, now. Roger,
sorry, it was getting really loud back there. I couldn't hear you.
We have 46 seconds.
Okay.
What do you want to do? You want to call it, or you want to get back on the top?
I'm good. I've got lots of time. You're basically my afternoon. So
let's get off.
Okay.
Get back on. So for those who came on, we're going to get off. We're going to talk more business and linen with Ravi.
Awesome.
All right,
okay.
Brother. 2 minutes. Hello, Texture Soul.
Hey.
What's up, brother?
That's much better. I literally couldn't barely hear you towards the end. I don't know what was going on there.
I don't know.
Yeah, very weird. Now I'll switch to coffee now, so cheers.
Cheers.
Now we're going to get serious.
What is the most challenging part of your business?
Keeping up with orders. That's really tough. Juggling all the different jobs. So our business is made up of a few different elements. Number one, we have, let's just say we have like our custom everyday stuff. Like when you see us making curtains and all that kind of stuff, that's our day-to-day business. And so there's a lot of management, as you can imagine, like making sure we have inventory, making sure that the client, like, you know, we're scheduling installs, making sure that all the details are being accounted for. Because we don't only just make the curtains, we actually go and install them on site. And so, yeah, but it doesn't work otherwise. Like, because it's kind of like, I mean, it works, it's just that it doesn't work to our level otherwise, right? And so we have to go in before the places are built many times, and then reorganize the structure a little bit to accept curtains, like whether it's creating pockets, giving them pocket dimensions. We don't do the actual work, but we certainly do all the specification for it. So that's one part of the business. That's, I'd say, the main thrust of our business. And then, of course, as I explained back there, we're wholesaling a lot of those textiles. That's another big part of our business. And then we have an online shop, which is pretty great. We have online bedding. We sell bedding online, towels, just a bunch of odds and sods. And we're going to grow that.
Okay, so you have linen towels.
Linen towels. We make them out of the linen that we mill.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then we have a partner. We partner up with Libico, who is they're one of the biggest linen. I would say they have a huge offering of linen, ready-made linen home goods, and they're Belgian. And so we partner with them, and we offer their product on our website. So when people,
okay, we have a question that I'm gonna ask if you know a guy.
Sure.
Do you use any software to manage your orders?
No. Well, yes. Okay, so that's it's an interesting question. So when it comes to
Okay,
our
Robbie, give me 1 second. I just turned my fan on. Do you hear wind or is it good? Is the sound okay?
no, it sounds great.
All right, good.
Yeah. We use Woocommerce as our online platform. And we use, and for our in-house, everything that's done in-house is done on Google Drive. So basically, we have everybody here has access to a terminal when they're making something. So for example, like let's say I get an order. I put the order into a work order. The work order is, Anna can read those work orders anywhere in the world, right? So if she's on holiday and I want her to do some work, I can just say, can you take a look at this file? And she can just look at it, blah, 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 blah. She amends it. And then all the cutting lists and everything are done all through through Google Drive. So everybody has accessibility to every file all the time. So when they need to look up a work order, they can just go to the work order and look at the parameters that have been set out, and they know exactly what needs to be done. And then the other side of that is once we get on site, all I have to do is access that same folder, and I can see everything that was done to make the curtain what it is, what we allowed for installation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So those are really the only two software components in our whole business.
Do you do the installation yourself?
Yeah, I love it. And that's also why I have Festool. The Festool, the drills, all of that stuff, I love it. Yeah, like so all the Festool you see here I have in my truck is like I have like the installation stuff in the truck because I feel like you got to have the right tool, and it's just fantastic. Like their system is great. And so when we go on site, we already know what we're walking into. So whether it's a concrete install, whether it's something really special, we need saws, if we need, who knows? So we basically pack out the truck based on what our jobs are going to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But install is super key. Like it's super, super key. It's like you can make the most beautiful stuff and it's not installed properly. Who
What's
cares?
the use?
Yeah.
There's a linen guy here in Westchester, a brother, black guy.
Yeah.
And he makes bed sheets, pillows. And
What's his name? Like, what's the name of his company?
Lenoto.
Oh, yeah, I know him. I don't know him, but I want to visit him when I come to see you. Like, basically, I follow him on Instagram. He's got a great business model. Like, he's a champ.
Yeah, he's coming on too.
Awesome. I can't wait. I'm going to ask him so many questions, man. I'm going to flood the lines, man.
Well, that's good because, there's so many different industries, and what we all have in common is the hustle.
Yep. That's just it. Exactly what you said. It's the hustle. And that's, when people ask me, like, how can you be, I mentor a lot of people, a lot of different random people. And I keep telling them the very basic is that you just got to get out there and do it. Like, stop talking about your idea. Just go do it.
Live it.
Fail a few times. Don't be afraid of it. It's going to happen.
Yep. Yeah. So what do you want your kids to follow up and do what you're doing?
No, not necessarily. I want them to see, I have the good fortune of being able to do what I want to do. Now I've worked hard at actually making that work, but I know how that feels, man. I'm waking up in the morning. I'm here at like 7 o'clock every day. I leave here at like 6:37 every night. I come in on the weekends once or twice. I love what I do, okay? If my children find that kind of joy with whatever it is that they want to do in their lives, I will support them 150% because you have to go through your whole life loving what you do because it's a reality. Yeah. And so if they're just following me, unless they have a real desire to be here, I don't want to put it on them. I've told them as much, I said, I really appreciate the help that you guys give me, and we work like a family, and they get paid. Don't forget they get paid, okay? So, like, they're doing all right. But, and they're learning a lot. Like, both of them can sew, which is a great skill.
Yeah.
My son is amazing at installs. Like, he crushes it on the installs. Like, he's taking over that side of it for me, and he's not taking over, but, like, it's great to see him there. Like, he knows how to use all the tools. And, you know, those are real life skills. And then it puts him in touch with a lot of different people. If you think about it, right? Like we're going and spending time in people's homes. You know, he's getting to meet my clients. He's getting to learn about what other people do, right? He gets to interact with all the different trades. Because sometimes, you know, you go to a site and there's like the electrician, the plumber, and it's fantastic. You know, like he's asking them questions. They're telling that he's watching what they're doing. So it's a good learning experience, especially now with, you know, the way the world is kind of weird. It's kind of nice to get them out and doing something productive rather than sitting at home doing nothing or going out with their friends and doing nothing.
Texture Soul asks, strangest order or request you've had?
I can't really say. I mean, there's been some weirdos for sure, but
always.
Yeah, but you know, it's usually things like people want like real custom dog beds or like nothing kinky or stupid. Like it's always something manageable. It just seems a little bit superfluous or frivolous, let's say. Yeah, people, you know, like, and then I should tell them, I turned down a lot of stuff. So that's probably, you know, like, so people will say to me, I just bought a new BMW. I want a matching, like, I want you to reupholster the baby seat in like the BMW leather. And I'd be like, you know what? You need a life. Get out of my face. Like,
too much free time and too much money.
Exactly. Nobody's got time for that crap.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you want to go next besides selling more raw product, more raw?
I think what I'd like to do, I'd like to, you know, I'd like to have a clothing line. I'd really like to have a clothing line because that's all. Everybody who works here came from fashion,
so you can pivot into that easy.
Super simple, because not only do we now have control of the product, like the fabric, the raw materials, we also have the labor taken care of, right? And we also have a business which already has hundreds and hundreds of clients that would love to buy because they already love linen, right? So it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, so linen is...
So how are you going to do that?
I think over the next few months, we're starting to have conversations now about what that's going to look like. I feel like what we would probably do is just create a very small line of very few choices. See, choices, like if you're I mean, okay, clothing is one thing, but like in my industry and certainly in yours, you're the expert, okay? And if you give the customer too much choice, they screw it up because they don't know. Yeah, and they also don't know what goes into things, and so they start imagining things that are impossible or really, really challenging for no reason other than they think it's possible. And so with our industry, with our business, what we've actually been doing is limiting choice, always limiting choice. So for example, we make 2 styles of curtain. That's it. You can have this style or you can have this style. You don't get to tell us what style you want. We'll tell you what we're going to make. If you like it, you can buy it. If you don't like it, see you later, alligator. Fabrics, we limit our fabrics down to probably, I want to actually show you some of them. So for example, like, you know, we start, like, you can order like shears, right? This is bedding weight. It's like a really nice sort of bedding weight. And then it goes all the way up into like really heavy, like upholstery fabrics, right? And then we get some specialties like these, like, see this sort of wool stripe? It's a wool and linen blend. And then like this beautiful sort of like comforter fabric, like a throw, right? So, but if you notice, the colors are very somber and everything works together, right? So you can very easily say to someone, I can make your shears, I can make your sofa, I can make you a throw, and then I can make you some bedding, and it'll all look fantastic. So imagine if you had clothing like that, right? So very simple pieces, a few different textures, very manageable color palette. It's a winner.
So you do sofas as well?
Mm-hmm.
Do you reupholster or do you have that done?
Nope. So what we do is we don't reupholster anything. We just make it from scratch. So we build...
reupholster, I mean upholster, right.
Yeah. So what we do is we build the frames here in the back, And then our sofas are quite unique. They don't have springs and things like I don't like those kinds of sofas. They've never been appealing to me. And I just don't see this is gonna piss off a lot of upholsterers, but I just don't see the value in that. That's like old 200-year-old. It doesn't make any sense for my modern day life. So I build my sofas entirely out of various grades of industrial foam and different wood suspension and all sorts of things. They're quite different, but they're designed mostly to be like beds. They're not really like a formal sofa you'd put in your living room. They're like media room sofas. So we make environments for people to sit in. So we build it all here. We model them in 3D, and then we send the various components to different people. So for example, before we were making the frames here, we were sending the frame component to a mill worker, and he was building the frame to our spec. The frame is then sent over to a foam fabricator. The foam fabricator CNC cuts all the pieces so they fit together on the frame in different layers. So you basically just glue them all together and shape them, and then you have this sort of modular piece. And then by the time it arrives here, we just make the cover and cover it. So we could build a sofa literally like the last sofa I built was probably, I want to say it was about 21, 22 feet long, like a U, right? So you measure it along the back, it was like 7 feet, 7 feet, 7 feet. Probably bang that out in about less than a week if everything goes smoothly. Because everybody has their job, and by the time it arrives here, we're just covering it. Now we have started making the frames ourselves because my son's really good at using the tools, and I gave him the challenge of, he helped me put a frame together. It was the best frame we've ever built. And so,
that's good.
Yeah, and then we have things like, people will order headboards, for example, right? They want a simple headboard, a little bit of shape. They want it hanging on the wall behind their bed. That's easy enough for me to whip up. I've got plywood in the back. I just cut it up, shape it, foam it, off I go. Yeah.
Pretty good.
It's great. It's great. It's great. Like in our next, on the curtain side, we've just partnered with a big motorization company. And so now we fabricate the motorized hardware here. So now we do that primarily for two reasons. Number one, we control all aspects of it. So every time you order something and there's a mistake, well, if it took 3 weeks to get it, it's going to take another 3 weeks to fix it, okay? If I've got all the parts here, which I do, like I keep all the motors and all the hardware here, then all I have to do is just put it together. If there's a mistake, I just make an adjustment. But more than that, because I buy so much quantity, I get a better price, which allows me to have a higher profit margin. But then I can also wholesale those systems to other people who are in my industry who are too small to actually build it themselves. Make sense? And then that way they get it cheaper than they would from the typical wholesaler, and they know that they can always come here and get it fixed if they needed to. So it's kind of a new direction that we're moving in, because I don't know if you know, but basically like the lithium ion technology has become so good, like battery powered window covering is going to be huge. They're already huge, but like they're really going to take off.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then you can integrate it with Alexa. You can integrate it with like all kinds of stuff, like Google Home. It's great. So you can just talk to your shade and it opens. It's fantastic.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
What was the coolest project you've done?
So many, dude. Like seriously, we've done we did a great project one year in New York, actually. So when they were building, they were building a Marriott hotel in Times Square, just off Times Square. They call it the Marriott Times Square. And they had a spa in there, and it was really beautiful. It was like all marble and everything. And so they hired us to make window coverings for them, like really conceptual window coverings. So we designed a window covering that looked like the skyline of Manhattan. And so it created privacy from the outside so nobody could see in. But from inside, it looked so interesting with the layers of buildings and things like that. So we've done a lot of really cool, but I have to be honest, I give every client the same level of respect. Like to me, yeah, it's a cool project, but to them, it's their project, And like we've done some amazing homes here in Vancouver. We've been very lucky to have like really great clients, whether it's traditional or contemporary. But I feel like we put in the same amount of effort and the same amount of love into every project, because that's what our customer doesn't want to know that their project is not as exciting, or it's and for us it's like we're just as passionate regardless. So I would say like most of my projects are fantastic, except for those guys with the BMWs who want their baby seats covered. Like, forget them.
So what you do is luxury.
Interesting. So what I tried to do is get away from luxury. Okay. So I like the idea of very well made, high quality product, but I don't like the ostentatious aspect of that. Okay.
But you can't get away from that though.
You can.
No.
You can.
Because your price point puts you in a certain place. Period.
Okay. Mm.
And there's all kind of other stuff that comes with that.
Yeah.
But you can't be luxury and not have the luxury headaches.
Check this out. Let me tell you something, okay?
Talk to me.
Okay, so rich people, they buy silk. They buy velvet, okay? Really rich people buy linen. And I'm not kidding you.
No, I know.
Yeah. And the people who buy linen, they're not looking for, they don't want living rooms that nobody walks into. They use every part of their house. I can't even tell you the kinds of clients that we have met during this transition of business, because I thought we were at the pinnacle. Like, before we had this business, we had a different business. It was called Ravi Design Luxury Furnishings, okay? And we used to make the highest quality, like crazy couture level shit, okay? Like hand-stitched everything, beautiful stuff. Didn't ever really make a lot of money, but the product was out of this world, right? Well, since we moved over to linen, I have to say the level of our clientele has actually gone up. It's astonishing. Like, I thought we were at but now it's accessible on many different levels, okay? So people will build humongous homes, like, like 25, 30,000 square foot homes. They'll fill it with linen. But then another dude will be like, I have a client who just lives right around the corner here in a high rise, and he's just a single dude, and he loves linen. And when he's got the money, he comes over here and he buys, like, he's bought 2 sets of curtains, and now he's saving up to buy bedding, right? And so the quality is actually the same, because we don't make a difference in our pricing or our quality. The quality is the same. It's just, what's your level of appreciation, right? And you don't want to deal, like, so a lot of people will sort of cut themselves out of the loop by saying things like, we don't like linen because it wrinkled. Well, then we're not for you. And that's okay.
Linen is wonderful. Linen is wonderful.
It's 100%. So, yes, people have attitudes, but it's also how you approach it. If you look at how people interact with people, and this is going to be, this is very general, but like, let's say, you're dealing with people with a lot of money, which I do on a daily. I don't treat them any differently than I'm treating anybody else. Like, I respect that they've worked hard to make that money or whatever it is, but I don't see them as different from me or you or the next person. And I refuse to treat them differently based on that. Like, if they're good people versus like not good people, they get treated like a human being, right? Whereas if somebody's rude to you, no matter how much money they have, I don't need to work for them.
Right, you don't
I don't want to
with
work for them. Yeah. And so then I think they kind of look like, if you're that kind of a person, you learn pretty quick that your attitude it's hurting you. But I see it. Like, I definitely see it. Like, when I work with interior designers, for example, a lot of interior designers can be kind of themselves a little bit poncy, and I don't think it's necessary. Like, I'm just there to do a job. You're going to see me, over the course of a couple weeks, and then I'm going to be out of your life. I don't need to prove anything to you, and you don't need to prove anything to me. As long as you can pay your bill, I don't give,
That's what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Paying the bill.
Yep. And I don't treat any of my customers any different unless I know them personally. Like, that's different, right? Like, you get to know people, you get to hang out with them and like learn about them. Then you really, you have a different relationship.
Yep. That changes.
Yeah. But I guess also I have to say, like, Vancouver is the kind of city where there's a lot of people with a lot of money. Like, a disproportionate number of people here have just shitloads of money. And so you're sort of, it's in your face all the time, So it's kind of normal in a way. It's kind of messed up, but it is kind of normal.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, what's it like out there? Like you must be working with some pretty, like some of the stuff you do is monumental.
Yeah,
Like,
it's luxury.
yeah,
I mean, because I sell the lumber,
yeah,
I get on the other end of that.
yeah,
But yeah, a lot of, it's not the most luxurious.
yeah,
Because there's some guys out here that's doing some sick stuff, and I'm not. I don't even get in those houses.
yeah,
And it's yeah, I said that they're just different levels to it. But we deal with and most of my clients, I've on the commercial side, I've run into some wackos. But as far as the residential, people are great.
oh yeah, yeah. I kind of agree.
Yep. Yeah.
For the most part.
The commercial gets a little different. But
Well, what do you think the difference is? Is it just like timelines, is it budgets? What is it? Expectations?
I think a lot of times with commercial, there's so many different personalities in business.
Right.
And there's so many different personalities that run business. And sometimes, like, talking to the guys that I talk to about what I do, and I tell them all the time, you got to be kind of crazy to do this because it requires so much of it. I mean, like you're a little strange, but
Oh yeah,
that
very.
works for your business.
Yeah,
That makes the business work.
yeah,
And we're all like that. I'm weird, but my weird is a benefit to what I do.
yeah, yeah.
And sometimes, people are a little too weird or weird in a way that there's no
It's
harm.
uncomfortable. Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
They don't. So that's kind of it. And I think you run into jerks.
And I also find with commercial work, there isn't the level of appreciation that there would be if it was somebody who actually contracting you personally to do the work. Because if it's a lobby of a building, who cares? Like, people are just gonna walk by this thing, and there's like deadlines, and those things are important. And then every so often you'll have like we just finished a really fantastic yoga studio where they did want to make the fabric a real feature, and then it was a different conversation altogether. Like, I noticed when they were talking to the dudes making the blinds, they were just like, like it was very cut and dry. This is all we want, blah. But when they came to talking about putting the fabric up, then it was more like art. And so in those instances, it's a very different conversation. But generally, we've stayed out of commercial because it doesn't pay. That's the other thing. Is like if I was to do my very first job, check it out. So my very first big project, I was competing. I was bidding on a house full of window coverings, and at the same time, I was bidding on about 6 or 7 rooms in a hotel. Okay, and the hotel, I gave them an estimate of about 15 grand. And they told me they got a quote that was 60% cheaper. The house, I quoted them at $90,000, and they wrote me a check that day. And I was like, why would I waste my time, right?
And the hotel would have been more work.
100 times, and then they'd keep calling you back to do shitty work. Like, no, thank you, right? Like when a client, like I've had some clients who I just haven't gotten along with for whatever reason. They tell me, well, yeah, oh yeah. They'll tell me like, I don't think I'll recommend you to any of my friends. I said, well, if your friends are like you, please don't. And it's the truth, right? Like that, you get the kind of work referrals that, the people who are referring you are the people you want to work for, and you're doing the best work for. That's why they're referring you. Well, if you're getting a whole bunch of shitty referrals, well, might have to cut cut it off at the pass there.
Yeah, the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's complex, and the thing is, at the end of the day, it's nice to have choices of what kind of work you can do, and what kind of work you can take. But I'm not so far removed from where I came from, not having money, like not having anything when I started, that I would say, that I have I'd be a snob about it. Like literally I would explain to people why we don't do certain kinds of work. But there's times where like I see a project and I think, you know what? I don't think they're going to get anybody else to be able to do this. And it's pretty simple for us. It's not what we do, but we'll take it on, you know, and it helps both me and helps the client. And I do tell them, like, this isn't normally what we do, but I'm happy to help you out and I'm happy to get paid, because at the end of the day, I got to make money, right? I don't want to have an ego about that.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to have an ego about that, because they were missing the whole point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, and that takes time as well. Learning that.
Yeah. Truly.
You know, we get in our head and sometimes the ego jumps in front of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And causes you many problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and this is another thing is why I like doing things like the installs, because it keeps me very, like, connected to what I'm doing. You know, like, a lot of people ask me, why don't you just hire those out? Why don't you just hire someone to do it? I like showing up with my truck. I like pulling my tools out. You know, I'm thinking in the back of my head. Sorry?
So you get to meet and hang out with the client.
Yeah, and see the job finished, you know, and I actually really enjoy it. You know, I'm in my head, I'm thinking, like, shit, I got all these other orders I got to pack and send out. But right now, like yesterday, man, yesterday was a brutal day. Like, we are doing a home on a kind of like a private island, and it's just very close to the mainland. So it's not like it's miles and miles away. You just take a little boat and it just takes you back and forth. Well, yesterday when we got there, it was low tide, which meant all of the ramps were like this angle, okay? So, and I'm bringing curtains down these ramps in the rain, right? And I've got no problem doing it. This is my job. I got to do this, right? Get them on the boat, like, try not to fall in the freaking water, and then get to the other side and walk up the same ramp on the other side, right? Like, I don't think most people want to do that kind of stuff. I didn't want to do it, but it's part of my job. I got to do it, right? Of course, when we left, it was high tide, so there was no ramps anymore. It was really easy, but should have planned it better. Yeah, yeah. I have to say, man, watching your videos, they're amazing. Like, these big ass pieces of wood that you get, some of them are incredible.
Yeah, they're pretty big, and it's you know, I fight with that too of how much of this I should be fooling around with, but you know, I tell people, from the people I've been having conversations with and communicating with more, some of that is just content. It's just content. And before, I wouldn't be worried about content, because I'm always doing stuff that I have to do. Yeah. But I never video it.
Right.
And if you take a minute and turn the camera around, it's pretty cool video.
Super cool.
But I before I didn't. I'm starting to do it a lot more now. And it's working. People like that.
Yeah. I like it. I love seeing that shit, because it's not in my day-to-day.
Exactly.
And why did you start doing this? Like, why did you start doing this? What inspired you to start having conversations with people?
Because there's so many different fields that I admire, and I think I've always thought, when meeting someone, that there's more to this person than what they're showing me. Yeah, interesting. So what the craftsmanship does is it shows you who the person is, what they got to give, what they're showing us, and the conversation takes that a little bit further. Yeah. So it was all people whom I admired and wanted saw people whom I admired and want to get to know a little bit more about and know their story. Yeah. So I first started it with, there were 20, 30 guys, my close friends doing that, and some people I really admire. Yeah. Whom I couldn't just say, hey, you know, without having this format, I couldn't just say, hey, let's get on a call and talk for 20 minutes, let me pick your brain. Yeah. That's weird. So I started this platform to communicate, and I'm thinking, I can't be the only one that wants to know this dude's story. Right. I mean, like, there's so few people that do what you do, until there's got to be something unique about this. especially the process that it took you to get here and what it takes to keep going.
Yeah.
Because they're two different things. So that's what made me want to do it. And I, you know, ideally for me is, you know, we have 112 conversations coming up.
Wow. Wow.
And most of those are 10 a.m.s. The 6 p.m.s, this one, I keep open for the variety.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, the woodworkers is all white men. More white women, but it's all white men.
Really?
And I don't want to. I don't think it'd be entertaining. And they're crazy talented.
Yeah.
For every conversation, I'm talking to some white guy. I just don't think that there needs to be some variety to what's going on. And plus, there are a lot of talented people. It's just my job to find them and bring them
Fair.
on.
Yeah.
Now, you know, there are quite a few people who don't respond. Some people respond. There are people whom I sent an invite to in April, and they're getting back to me now.
Right.
And I'm sure they're getting back to me because they're following someone who's coming on. And they're like, oh, wait a minute. He asked me too. So, yeah, that's it. And you know, it's a lot of work, but I love it, man.
It's prolific, actually. Like, if you think about how many interviews you're doing in a week, right? I can't keep up. Like, I try to listen to as much of them as I can. And I'll be honest, like, I can only catch like parts of them. Because, you know, I got things to do, right? But I'll listen to them, and they're super fascinating. I love like seeing people, they start off, some of them can be a bit nervous, you know, they don't know what to expect, right? And then when you get into it, and then you can see like they're really passionate about what they're doing, and that takes over.
Yeah.
And I
Like,
think they feel a sense of comfort.
yeah, let me tell you, what I was particularly uncomfortable for me was the guy David Weeks. David Weeks
That was like last week, wasn't it? Or earlier this week? Yeah.
Yeah, he does lighting.
That's right.
And serious lighting.
Yeah.
And I could tell he was a little nervous because he was, you know, doing something with his hair. And I'm asking him the questions, right? And he keeps saying, giving me celebrity answers. And I'm like, man, I don't want to know about them. I want to know about you.
Yeah.
I want to know your story.
Yeah.
And I got a little aggravated. And after that, Robbie, smooth sailing.
Yeah.
He once he settled in,
yeah,
dude had, and it was amazing. He had an amazing journey. You know, he's been in Chelsea for 8 years.
Mm.
You can imagine what that takes to
yeah.
That's staying power.
Yeah.
And all the things that it took him to get there. So that was pretty good. That was that started out a little rocky, and then we settled in there, and it was great.
Awesome. And I love the plant in the back, by the way. That's like part of the set there. Your little
Yeah, I used to have more. I'll show you the rest of them.
Oh yeah, I haven't met them.
Now,
sweet.
Okay, I'm gonna show you something that people give me a hard time with, right? They
Let's
keep
see.
saying, you need more light, you need more light. This is the one I used to have above.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's a fiddleback fig leaf. This is one also. All right. This light. Now check this one out, right? All of this is new. It came out.
Huh. There
Can
you
you hear
go.
me?
Now I can, yeah. Your screen was frozen.
How long was I frozen?
Probably about 30 seconds, 40 seconds.
Okay. So you got those, right?
Yep.
Right. Yeah, so that's what the plants are about. Um,
Wow. Yeah, it's cool.
yeah.
That's
Sorry about the
fantastic.
frozen. Sorry, did I caught everything, right?
Well, you started talking about that, and then I think we're probably good.
Okay.
I think you covered it there at the end.
All right.
Yeah, but I do like your set because it's real.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I didn't have time to make anything artificial. So I put a plant in the sign. That sign was a little bit hard to figure out because initially I had it the correct way.
Oh, yeah. So you had to have it printed the other way.
Mirror
Right.
image is called.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I never even thought of that. I never even thought of that. Interesting. Let me ask you something because I've watched a couple interviews with you, and you said that you got started when you wanted to build your house,
Yep.
right? But did you know how to use tools and all that?
No.
So then you just
A
sort of
little
picked
bit.
it up, or what?
Yeah. Marianne Burroughs Art says, "What's up? Hey, Robbie.
Marianne's one of
Um,
my favorite customers of all time.
what's up, Marianne? I didn't. Well, that's not right. I was working on Volkswagens and Porsches
Uh,
when I bought the house, and the reason for that was I wanted to build a live and work loft. So I was pretty handy. I just wasn't woodworking handy. So I flew in my grandfather, my brother, and my uncle, and we raised it. We framed it up.
so then
Uh,
how did that become where you are today? Like I don't understand. Like that's what I'm missing because like you'd have
because
to know how to use like you know all the tools that you have, right? Like that's I mean
no,
certainly
you
no.
can learn it. When
Yeah.
when when I got um, when I got the place, it was closed. We framed it, right? My uncle helped build it. We followed, and every day I learned more and more about carpentry.
Yeah.
So once I get it closed in, I'm like, okay, what do I want in here? And I wanted cherry floors,
Yeah.
cherry cabinets, walnut this, maple that, and I couldn't find it. So I started seeing trucks dump wood and mulch it and turn it to firewood. I'm like, there's got to be a better use for that. So I
Yeah.
paid some guy to do it, and he kept coming back with a bill. And I'm like, how much is a saw? So I bought one.
Yeah.
And just, doing it and doing it. At this time, I worked at Four Seasons Hotel.
Yeah.
So it was just beer money. So, it went on and on and on and on, and then it grew and grew and grew and grew. And here I am.
Yeah. And so where's your yard? Like do you work where your yard is?
My yard is 7-8 miles away. So right now I'm in my shop, which is
Yeah.
5,000 square feet. Then I have my yard. And I just go back and forth every day.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get, I have a finisher in the yard, and I'm trying to get him in here because I have a big drop with that.
Yeah.
I got a big sander, and the finishing should be faster.
Yeah, I get
It's
it.
taking the same amount of time as when he sanded it by hand with an orbital sander.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
No.
So I got to get a closer eye on that.
Yeah. Interesting. And so who are your are your customers like I don't know what business is like there. Is it sort of like you work sort of all over your state or do you go like I noticed you said you were out in San Francisco or California? So
Yep.
like how do you get work all the way out there to make
Designer.
things designers? So they're
Yeah.
working with a client who has homes in multiple places. And then what
That
about
was
your
commercial.
Hmm,
That was a commercial job. And
I
we're
see.
working in, we're doing a PayPal job that's in Tulsa?
Yeah.
Omaha, Nebraska. So once we finish this, I'll fly out there to install that to make sure that's right. And you know, wherever it may be.
And then what about the like the slab products? You just sell those by themselves to people?
Yeah. Yep. Sell them raw.
Yeah. And
So
who are your customers for that? Like, are they usually like woodworkers like you know, or is it just like random people?
Yeah.
All
Random
kinds of people
people.
probably.
Yeah. Random people. Some woodworkers I know. It's random. But I need to concentrate on selling more of that.
On the slabs? And do you find that people are like, do they know what they want? Like, they come in saying to you, Rob, this is what I want, or are you
The
they sort of?
the woodworkers do. The random people don't.
Mm. So what are you selling? Like, what would you say is like you know, your most popular species or kind of wood? Walnut. Why is that?
Walnut, then white oak.
Is it just because that's what's sort of popular now, or is there?
Because water is a darker wood and it looks exotic.
Mm.
Looks like an import. So
Interesting.
this is walnut. You
Yeah.
can't even see how dark it is.
Yeah.
But it's pretty brown.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the same sort of thing here. I just wondered if there was like if people had different tastes there, because here walnut is probably, I don't know for a fact, but it's a very popular wood, probably one of the most popular ones. And then white oak is like everywhere now.
White oak is good.
And so then do you also sort of say, okay, well, you know, like you might have a lot come in, or like you salvage something quite unique, but it's not like on trend, let's just say. So do you warehouse a lot of stuff just sort of thinking like, you know, one day this is gonna pop off?
Well, what happens with that is I have over 1 million board feet in timber.
Mm-hmm.
We cut a lot constantly.
Yeah.
There's Derek. He was a customer. He's a buddy of mine. Yes, he went in looking around, and he walked out with walnut because it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So what happens, right, is I keep a large inventory because, like you, when something transpires, I can control it and get it out, and I don't have to go look for it. I have it ready and prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And if something's really nice,
I
put it to the side. I don't sell it. I make the last buck off of it. Yeah. I show it to my clients, my furniture clients, not my wholesale clients. So, you know, that's kind of it. And
what do you find, like, in terms of, like, so this is something I always wonder about, because all I ever use is plywood, okay? That's, like, the extent of my woodworking is on plywood. But when it comes to all the different species of wood, are there woods that are easier to work with? And there must be, but which ones are, like, would you say give you the best, like, the most satisfaction for the kind of work you're doing? So you're not putting too much work into it to make it look good versus it just works. Like, it's straight, it's hard, it takes, you know.
I mean, I think there's so many species of wood.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that is what gives you the biggest problem, and that is what you stay away from. Everything else is kind of good.
Right. What's the problem? What are the problematic woods?
Beech is hard. As wonderful as cherry is, people say cherry is soft. Cherry is not soft. Cherry burns the blade. Cherry is hard. Black locust is hard. Moves a lot. It's tough on the blade. Marianne fir is easy. That's it's easy to work with. Zoom. But fir's not sexy. The fir's not sexy. It's
fir's huge here.
With.
Yeah.
It is easy to work with.
Yeah.
Redwood, I find, is also easy to work with. It's light, pretty stable. It's good for outside. We get stuff from water tank wood. Walnut's always good to work with. But you know, what you want is a piece of wood that's dry and stable.
What about the wood that you salvage the wood in your area? Doesn't it all sort of conform to a certain Like, aren't there just a couple of different types of wood in your area? Like, or is there like all kinds of stuff?
It's about 40. What's up, Fast and Set? There's about 40 different species of wood.
Sure, but like in your area where you're salvaging, there's 40 different species there?
That's what I'm telling you, man.
Jeez.
Yeah. We are lucky. We
Yeah.
have some of the most diverse hardwoods in the entire world. Most
Really?
places you go only have a few.
Yeah.
We got 40 to 50.
What? I didn't even know there were that many.
Let me tell you, there's stuff here that the arborists know. I can't even pick it out in the lineup, and I'm pretty good with the tree.
Yeah, I believe it.
There's a whole nother level to this, and it's a lot.
Wow, I had no idea. Well, because I only see I probably see 6 to 8 different species in all my work, usually. Like there are some outliers, but no idea. I had no idea there was that many just in your area.
There's a lot. There's oak alone may have 20 different species just in oak. Maple, 15 to 20.
Wow.
Red oak, white oak, pin oak, live oak, black oak, swamp oak. It just goes on, and they're different. They look different.
I didn't realize it was. I mean, of course, I knew there were varieties, but I didn't realize that.
It was that. Yeah.
Wow. And so then when you salvage, so I imagine these old homes that have a lot of lumber, usable lumber in there. No, they don't.
I don't go to people. I don't salvage from old homes. I go and I get wood from a building that's coming down, and I take out the floor joist. Homes is too much work, man. And I don't do any salvage. I don't do any demo. I just buy it, pick up.
Got it.
Or pick up free.
Yeah.
That other stuff is too much.
Right.
Too much work.
Yeah. Yeah, I had no idea. There's businesses here in Vancouver. That's all they do, is they'll come and take your house apart before you build your new one. So you buy an old house, you got to demo it. They take it apart and salvage everything out of it, probably even the screws, as far as I know. It's insane.
Knobs, yeah, the old stuff.
Yeah, and then they must get some kind of tax credit, because it can't be cheap to do that. It can't be cheap to take a house apart.
It can't. It's labor. Yeah.
And the houses are worthless. They literally are worthless. What they're doing is they're just separating all of the stuff for the landfill. So basically it can be recycled, right? Or reused. But that's a growing industry here.
Yeah, because I think what happens in those scenarios is that the architectural salvage yards or places make the money when they sell that stuff.
Right.
So they can pay a couple of guys to go in there and pull it apart.
Right.
Go in and mark it up nice and high.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's very true, because that's another big business here I notice, is this reclaimed salvage wood that is for flooring, or they'll mill it up for you.
Yep. Yeah.
That's interesting. And so have you noticed that with your own business? So I noticed that woodworking it's always been a very big industry. But what I mean to say is that there's a lot of woodworkers, independent woodworkers, mill workers, many more than I remember there being years and years ago. And not only that, with social media and just the whole DIY craftsman movement, all of these things, it's pretty amazing. Even I watch all these DIY videos, and I try to make stuff from time to time. So do you find that's obviously been a help to your business, right? Because you're on the supply side too. So people need to buy this stuff somewhere, right?
Sometimes though, because some of the stuff people need to buy, but what happens when a guy comes to me watching a DIY video and he knows nothing about wood, he knows nothing about price, he's wasting my time. Totally. Because he wants to DIY it.
Yeah.
I had a couple come the other day, and they want to spend $50. I'm like, where do you live? Like, oh, we
Toothpaste.
live on Hastings. I'm like, how much did your house cost?
Mm-hmm.
You want to put what inside?
Yeah.
And they looked at me and they laughed.
Yeah.
Because they actually thought about what they were saying.
Yeah.
You know, being from this fancy neighborhood and this fancy home,
Yeah.
if he wants to go pay $50 for a board that he wants to make look nice in his $500,000 house,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense. And I
Right.
get that a lot.
Really? Yeah, I guess the
And I,
DIYers are a bunch of losers, most of them. So.
and I tell guys, I'm like, listen, you can't come to me for your bargain and think you're going to turn it into something high end. I said you got to start with something that's decent to get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
Marianne, my favorite wood is one that I make money off of, girl. That's the one. I mean, walnut is good, but you know, white oak is good, but it's the one that I'm selling. That's my favorite wood, the one that's selling.
Yeah.
So you know that's what it is. I get a lot of shoppers.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
People that just looking around, that just want to see, and they'll come in and they want to look. They just want to look.
Yeah.
And they want to talk.
Yeah, they're lonely.
You know, I've had people drive a couple of hours that just want to look.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, with me doing so many things, that becomes hard.
Yeah.
You know, and the people who you can't bargain with. How much is this 200? Okay.
Yeah.
Would you pay 120 for it? How about 100?
Yeah.
And I do it just to test them.
Right.
Yes, so window shopping, just to test them, to see what is your purpose here.
Right.
Because after about 30 minutes and nothing's transpired,
Just wasting
that 30 minutes, I turn into an hour.
Yeah, that's money.
So when they ask for something and I lower the price just to see if they'll buy it cheap, and they don't, that means they didn't come to spend money.
Right.
So then they gotta go.
Yeah. And what about like if people do you offer them any kind of service? Like, so for example, like let's say someone wanted to have, they bought a bunch of boards from you and they want to have them milled.
Yeah, we do it all.
Right on.
We do it all. Run it straight through the sander at 180. We do it all. You know, as we're talking about, I had a guy come in and he was this. And I told him, I said, no offense, man. I said, we were in the greenhouse and you asked me a price and I dropped that price in half. So I'm looking. I said, honestly, I think you're just here looking around.
Yeah.
He wrote a negative Google review. Said that I was rude. And I said, listen, I honestly told you, I thought that you were just looking around, not wanting to buy.
Right.
You know, he kept going up, but this is a guy that drove 2 hours just to look around.
Get a life.
But,
and then
but that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Is that to them that is a life. You know,
I guess so, but it's pretty pathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty. I get Google reviews from people who've never even been here. I'm not kidding you. I'm always flagging reviews because they hate the stuff that I post online. And the first thing they do is I'm going to give them a negative Google review, right? And it's like, you've never even been here. And they'll make shit up. Like one woman, she lived in France and she's like, yeah, I went there. They were very rude. I'll never go back. And I'm thinking, who are you? Like literally nobody comes here. Like nobody ever comes here. So like when they come in, the first question is, do you want a cup of coffee? Like how rude is that? Like, who are you? So I find that there's a lot of people out there who just, and the worst part is that people read those reviews without expecting an experience themselves. Like, so they're not going to call you and talk to you. They just look at the reviews or they look at, and it's a good way to weed out losers because basically it's their friends, like those kinds of people are going to go back and look.
As you say that, I have the same, we're going to get caught up. I have the same feeling about movie reviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I want to see a movie, I'm not going to read the review.
Yeah. Let me go see it. Make my own mind up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just like with a restaurant. I don't check to see if someone had a bad experience
Mm-hmm.
because that's not me.
Right. Very true.
So I try not, and plus I like to give people and things a chance.
Yep. I totally agree with you, 100%.
So,
I'm not gonna listen to some random person online who I have no connection with.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Crazy.
So, all right, brother.
All right.
It's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah, it has. Thank you.
And
This
listen,
is fun.
I'm going to be calling you about some linen.
Anytime. Anytime.
All right.
Anytime.
Seriously.
Anytime. Anytime.
So thanks again, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And have a great weekend, man.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
All
Be
right.
in touch.
See you.
Good night, brother.
Good night.
Thank you all.